Okay, so this is the final iteration of our group project. This is on behalf of myself and Erick Sauri, and we worked really hard on this for level design, and it's really great to be able to see the finished product now. So right off the bat, the first thing that's a major difference is we've added these new collectible weapons, and we added new enemies. So the weapon I just grabbed was a sword that increases your attack damage and also increases your jump height. And then you can also see these enemies are now robots. Before they used to be little goblins. So these robots are really cool because they're bigger. I think they fit in with the theme better, and they can block passages and say things. So that's really cool. Second thing we changed was the checkpoints now heal the character. So there, if you were to stand in the checkpoint, you'd get health back. So that was just put in there because we found that the level became extremely difficult when we added new monsters, so we fiddled around with that a lot. Here you'll see there's little mini bosses at the end of each floor, so this robot is a lot harder to defeat than the other ones are because he's got a shield mechanic that we implemented, and then he can also heal afterwards, so he's a bit difficult. What we found was that the level, even after polishing everything up the first time, the level was still too easy, so we tried to move things around so it was harder. So again, there you'll see in the elevator there's new enemies that shoot at the character, but they kind of attach to the walls, so those are a new addition. It's pretty cool. Again, here's another weapon. This is a fire weapon that does fire damage and also helps the character to run faster. I added a platform up here, right above my head there. That was added just because the level had a lot of empty space in it, and I wanted to add some more paths that the player could traverse, so that's new. The circle over here spawns a robot, so that's a cool little function too. Here's a new type of enemy that shoots at the character. Again, we just added more variation in enemies and just tried to make the level more difficult. These platforms are new. I substituted out two or three of the platforms that move up and down, and I traded them in for just regular stationary platforms just to add some variation, mix things up, and just a new kind of puzzle, really. So there's more of the new enemies, and then this part, for this third floor, there's just a ton of new enemies. That's the big change here, because we found that this one was really empty. Aside from this floating platform puzzle, there wasn't really much challenge, so we added a bunch of enemies to this one, and I think it came out pretty well. So here, this part's pretty much the same, but we added a coin up here. Then there's an enemy across from me right there, and if you don't take her out, she becomes very difficult because she can knock you right off the platform. This one too, the one that I just defeated, can also push the player right off the platform into the fire, which is difficult. We also, you can't really tell, but we moved the platform because it was a little bit off balance. That's a new type of enemy right there, a robot that kind of attacks with swords. He's kind of the mini boss of this last floor. No, I just died. Up here where the key is, we added a ton of enemies because it was just way too easy before. So there's the ball of death, and then another mini boss over here because it's further in the level, so we wanted to make it harder, but I don't want to fight him right now. I'll just keep going. And then on to the final floor, if I can get there. Okay, onto the final floor. The complaint with this floor was that it was too barren and too simple, so we added a bunch of enemies and made it a real build-up to the boss. There's also a new weapon down here that you can grab, and that one is kind of like an earthquake weapon, and it's a lot stronger than the other two, which is helpful because the boss is pretty difficult at the end, and we just threw a bunch of enemies in. So this whole level was kind of inspired by other platformer games. There's always, I think you can always kind of tell when the boss battle's coming up, so that's what this floor is for. So once you've defeated the enemies, there's a big space, and then you checkpoint, and then there's kind of this arena room where you fight the boss in, and then now that you have the new weapon, this can be a pretty fun fight. But the boss is a bit difficult, so you got to be careful. So all in all, other things worth mentioning are We added some other variation in blocks. We tinted some of them red. I don't know if that's really noticeable, but especially even in this room, you can see there's a lot of red here. That's because you're near the base of the volcano. That was the original theme of the level, was that it would be inside a volcano. So I just defeated the boss, and those are all the major changes. We had a lot of fun working on this, and I look forward to continuing my level design career. Thanks.